My friends, before we try to change our lives, we must change the way we see ourselves. Because no matter how many books you read, how many people you impress, or how many achievements you collect, if deep inside you still believe you're not enough, then you'll never truly feel fulfilled. You see, the biggest battles in life are not fought in the outer world. They're fought inside your mind, between who you think you are and who you really are. Most people live their entire lives wearing masks, trying to be liked, trying to be accepted, not realizing that peace doesn't come from people's opinions. It comes from self-acceptance. So today, let's talk about one of the most powerful transformations of all. Not changing the world around you, but changing the way you see yourself. Because when your vision changes, your life changes. My friends, have you ever stood in front of a mirror and looked at your own reflection? Really looked. Not just to fix your hair or adjust your clothes, but to see yourself. It's a strange feeling, isn't it? Because the mirror shows you what's there, but your mind starts whispering what's not. You see your face, but your mind says, I don't look good enough. You see your eyes, but your mind says, I look tired, dull, lifeless. You see your body, but your mind says, I wish I looked like them. The mirror never lies, it reflects reality. But your mind, it creates stories. And those stories shape how you see everything. There are two reflections in life, the one the world sees and the one you see in your mind. And between these two lies your self-worth. Every single day, millions of people look into mirrors, not to admire themselves, but to criticize. Not to celebrate their uniqueness, but to compare. They look for what's wrong instead of what's right. And that's the tragedy of our times. We've been trained to search for flaws rather than see our beauty. Let me tell you something, my friends. The way you see yourself determines how you walk into the world. If you see weakness, you will move with hesitation. If you see strength, you will move with confidence. If you see brokenness, you'll attract pain. But if you see wholeness, you'll attract peace. It's not the mirror that needs cleaning. It's the mind. Because when your mind is fogged with doubt, fear, and comparison, even the brightest light in you appears dim. But when your mind is clear with gratitude, faith, and self-acceptance, even the smallest spark of you shines like the sun. I remember meeting a young man once, brilliant, kind-hearted, full of potential. But every time he looked at himself, he saw failure. He said, Sir, I've achieved nothing in life. I'm not like others. And I told him, it's not that you haven't achieved anything. It's that you're looking through the wrong lens. Because the lens through which you see yourself defines what you believe is possible for you. When you start to honor yourself, you begin to unlock the power within you. When you stop looking for flaws and start looking for blessings, everything changes. So the next time you stand before a mirror, don't just see your reflection, see your resilience. See the strength that helped you survive your hardest nights. See the courage that carried you through your failures. See the beauty of your imperfections, because they make you human. And remember, the mirror never lies, but your mind might. So choose your thoughts wisely. Because once you start seeing yourself differently, the entire world starts treating you differently. My friends, one of the greatest prisons we build for ourselves is the prison of our past mistakes. We carry them like invisible chains, not around our hands, but around our hearts. Every time we try to move forward, those chains pull us back, whispering, remember what you did. Remember how you failed. You don't deserve better. And we believe those whispers, but the truth is, you are not your mistakes. You are not your failures, not your regrets, not those moments where you lost control or spoke words you wish you hadn't. Those moments are chapters in your story, not the title of your life. Everyone, every single person you admire has made mistakes. Even the strongest souls have stumbled, fallen, and broken down. The difference is not that they never failed. The difference is they didn't let their failure define who they are. They learned from it, and they grew beyond it. Think about it this way: when a child learns to walk, how many times does he fall? Dozens, hundreds. But do we ever call that child a failure? No, because we understand that falling is a part of learning. But when we grow up, we forget that truth. We start expecting perfection from ourselves, from everyone. And when we make a mistake, instead of learning, we start labeling. I'm not good enough. I always ruin things. I'll never change. But that's not the voice of truth. That's the voice of guilt. And guilt, if you let it stay too long, turns into shame. And shame doesn't help you grow. It keeps you stuck. Your mistakes are meant to be teachers, not tormentors. They come to show you something you couldn't see otherwise. Every regret hides a lesson. Every fall carries wisdom. Every wrong turn points toward a better direction. Let me tell you a small story. A man once came to a wise monk and said, "I've made too many mistakes in life. I've hurt people, wasted time, broken trust. I don't think I deserve peace." The monk smiled and said, "When you walk into a forest, do you only see the fallen leaves on the ground, or do you also see the trees still standing tall?" The man said, "Of course, I see both." The monk said, "Exactly, life is like that. You've fallen in some places, but you've also stood tall in many others. Don't let the fallen leaves hide the forest of your strength." Isn't that powerful? Sometimes we spend so much time regretting the one thing that went wrong that we forget to celebrate the 1,000 things we've done right. You have survived heartbreaks. You've overcome challenges. You've helped people when no one noticed. You've tried again when it was easier to quit. These are not mistakes. These are signs of your growth. So, forgive yourself, not because what you did was okay, but because you deserve peace. When you forgive yourself, you take away your past power to define your future. You stop saying, "Why did this happen to me?" and start asking, "What is this teaching me?" That's the shift. That's where healing begins. You see, every mistake carries a hidden message. A failed relationship teaches you what real love means. A lost opportunity teaches you the importance of gratitude. A painful rejection teaches you the strength of resilience. But only if you're willing to listen. So, my friends, stop letting your past mistakes write your future story. You've paid the price. Now take the lesson and move forward. You are not the storm you went through. You are the calm that survived it. You are not the darkness you faced. You are the light that rose again. You are not your mistakes. You are the wisdom they left behind. And when you finally see yourself that way, when you can look back and smile, knowing that every wrong step still led you here, that's when you begin to truly live. My friends, one of the silent destroyers of happiness today is comparison. We wake up in the morning, and before we even whisper a word of gratitude, we scroll. We scroll through the highlights of other people's lives. We see smiles, vacations, new cars, promotions, perfect bodies, perfect families, and somewhere deep inside, a small voice says, "Look at them and look at you. And in that single moment, joy begins to fade, not because our life is lacking, but because we start measuring it against someone else's. Comparison is a thief of joy. It steals silently. It doesn't come knocking on your door shouting, "I'm here to ruin your peace." No, it creeps in quietly, through your thoughts, through your insecurities, through that endless urge to measure your worth against another person's timeline. But here is the truth. Everyone's timeline is different. You can't compare your chapter 3 to someone else's chapter 20. You can't compare your journey of healing to someone else's highlight reel. And yet, we do it every day. We forget that the person we're comparing ourselves to also compares themselves to someone else. You might be envying their success while they're secretly envying your peace. You might wish for their wealth while they long for your relationships. Everyone, my friends, is carrying something unseen. It's like walking through a garden filled with different flowers. The rose doesn't try to become a sunflower. The sunflower doesn't wish to be a lily. They just bloom. They don't compare. They express their beauty fully, in their own time, in their own way. But we humans, we forget that truth. We think we have to look like someone else, earn like someone else, live like someone else to feel enough. And in trying to become someone else, we stop being ourselves. I remember meeting a young girl once, brilliant student, creative mind. But she came to me one day with tears in her eyes. She said, "Sir, I feel like I'm never good enough. My friends are ahead of me. They've achieved so much. I feel small next to them." I asked her, "Tell me something. If a mango tree starts comparing itself to a bamboo tree, do you think it'll ever grow properly?" She smiled through her tears and said, "No," I said. "Exactly. Because the mango tree is meant to give fruit, and the bamboo is meant to stand tall. Their purposes are different, their timings are different, but both are beautiful. So stop comparing your growth to someone else's. You are growing at your own divine pace." She looked at me, nodded slowly, and said, "Maybe I just need to trust my time." Oh, my friends, that's what we all need, to trust our time. You see, comparison blinds us to our blessings. When you constantly look at what others have, you stop seeing what you already have. You start missing the small miracles in your life, the roof over your head, the people who love you, the strength that carried you through tough times. And here's something profound. The more you compare, the more you forget your uniqueness. Because comparison makes you chase someone else's path instead of walking your own. You start trying to copy their success, imitate their personality, follow their dreams. And you end up losing your identity. Remember this, you cannot shine by being someone else. You shine when you embrace who you are. The butterfly doesn't envy the bird. The bird doesn't envy the sky. Each is content in its design. So why can't we be? When you stop comparing, you begin to appreciate. And appreciation turns what you have into enough. There's an old saying, the grass looks greener on the other side until you realize it's because you stopped watering yours. So water your own grass. Nurture your own growth. Celebrate your own progress, no matter how small it seems. Someone once said, a flower does not think of competing with the flower next to it. It just blooms. And when it blooms fully, it doesn't need to compare because it's already complete. So, my friends, stop looking sideways. Look inward. The only person you should try to be better than is the person you were yesterday. That's the only comparison that brings peace. The comparison with your past self. Be grateful for your journey. Trust your pace. Bloom in your own season. Because when you stop competing with others and start connecting with yourself, you finally taste what true happiness feels like. And remember, the thief of joy can only enter when you leave your heart's door open to comparison. Close that door, open the one to gratitude, and you'll realize you were never behind. You were always becoming my friends. Have you ever wondered why two people can go through the exact same situation, yet one comes out stronger while the other comes out broken? It's not the situation that defines them, it's their perception. Life, my friends, is not what happens to you, it's how you see what happens to you. You can give two people the same storm, and one will say, "Why does this always happen to me?" While the other will say, "What is this trying to teach me?" The storm is the same, but the outcome is completely different. That's because perception shapes reality. What you focus on expands. What you choose to see determines what you begin to believe. And what you believe becomes the lens through which you experience your entire life. Let me share a simple story. There was once a traveler walking through a village. He saw two men working hard, laying bricks under the hot sun. He asked the first man, "What are you doing?" The man wiped his sweat and said, "Can't you see? I'm laying bricks. It's tiring, boring work." Then he asked the second man the same question. That man smiled, looked up at the sky, and said, "I'm building a temple, a place where people will come to find peace. Same job, same heat, same work. But one saw pain and the other saw purpose." That, my friends, is the power of perception. You see, every moment in your life carries two possible meanings. The one that breaks you and the one that builds you. You can look at a challenge and see a curse, or you can see a classroom. You can look at rejection and see humiliation, or you can see redirection. You can look at your scars and see shame, or you can see strength. It's not the event that matters. It's the eyes with which you see it. If you focus on what's missing, your life will always feel empty. If you focus on what's present, your life will always feel abundant. If you focus on what's wrong, you'll live in stress. If you focus on what's right, you'll live in peace. Your mind is like a camera. What you choose to focus on becomes your picture of reality. And the more you zoom into the negative, the more your world begins to look dark. But if you shift the lens even slightly toward gratitude, toward learning, toward love, suddenly light begins to appear. There was a time in my own life where everything seemed to be falling apart. People I trusted walked away. Plans I made crumbled. I remember sitting alone, asking myself, "Why is this happening?" And then a thought came, maybe this isn't happening to me. Maybe it's happening for me. That single shift in perception changed everything. Because instead of asking, "Why me?" I started asking, "What now?" Instead of seeing pain as punishment, I began to see it as preparation. Preparation for something greater. Something I couldn't see yet. That's what perception does. It transforms suffering into strength, confusion into clarity, and loss into learning. Remember this, your outer world is a reflection of your inner world. If your mind is full of negativity, even blessings will look like burdens. But if your heart is full of gratitude, even burdens will look like blessings. I once heard a wise man say, "When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change." It sounds simple, but it's life-changing. If you see failure, you stop trying. But if you see feedback, you start improving. If you see endings, you feel loss. But if you see beginnings, you feel hope. If you see obstacles, you shrink. But if you see opportunities, you grow. And you know what's beautiful? You have the power to choose that perception every single day. When life tests you, pause for a moment, ask yourself, how else can I look at this? Because hidden inside every problem is a new perspective waiting to set you free. The same rain that ruins a picnic also helps flowers grow. The same fire that burns a forest also gives warmth in the cold. The same ocean that drowns one person carries another safely to shore. It's not the rain, the fire, or the ocean that decides. It's how you see, how you react, and how you believe. So, my friends, if you want to change your life, start by changing your lens. See failure as a lesson. See pain as a teacher. See endings as beginnings. And see yourself not as someone stuck in darkness, but as someone learning to find the light. Because once your perception shifts, your reality follows. And you realize life was never against you. It was always guiding you, waiting for you to open your eyes and see differently. My friends, there's a voice inside your head that you listen to every single day. It's the voice that comments on everything you do, everything you wear, everything you say, and even everything you think. That voice never leaves you. It's there when you wake up, and it's there when you close your eyes at night. And sadly, for most people, that voice is unkind. We speak to ourselves in ways we would never speak to another person. When we make a mistake, we say, I'm so stupid. When we fail, we say, I can't do anything right. When we look in the mirror, we say, I don't look good enough. We criticize, we judge, we punish. But let me ask you something. Would you ever talk to someone you love the way you talk to yourself? If your best friend came to you in tears after failing an exam, would you say, you're useless? If your child stumbled and fell, would you say, you'll never learn? No, you would comfort them. You would encourage them. You would say, it's okay. You can try again. You're still amazing. So why don't we do that for ourselves? My friends, one of the most powerful acts of transformation is learning to talk to yourself like someone you love. Because the words you speak to yourself create the world you live in. They become the background music of your life, playing softly but influencing every thought, every choice, every belief. If that inner music is full of criticism, your world feels heavy. If that music is full of kindness, your world feels lighter. I remember once meeting a young woman who said, Sir, I try so hard to stay positive, but I always feel low. I asked her, what do you say to yourself when you fail? She said, I tell myself I'm not good enough. I said, and what do you say when you succeed? She said, that it's just luck. I smiled gently and said, then tell me, how will your heart ever believe in you if your own words don't support you? Because you can't build confidence with self-criticism. You build confidence with self-compassion. When you make a mistake, instead of saying, I'm such a failure, say, I made a mistake, but I can learn from it. When you feel lost, instead of saying, I'm hopeless, say, I'm learning to find my way. When you feel broken, instead of saying, I'm shattered, say, I'm healing. Notice how different that feels. The situation hasn't changed, but your energy has. Because your self-talk decides whether you build yourself up or break yourself down. There's a quote I love. You've been criticizing yourself for years, and it hasn't worked. Try approving of yourself and see what happens. When you start speaking kindly to yourself, something magical happens. Your brain begins to believe it. Neuroscience shows that your thoughts literally rewire your brain. The more you practice self-love through words, the more your brain builds pathways of confidence, peace, and strength. That means every time you say to yourself, I'm proud of you, you're not just saying words, you're reprogramming your mind. And that's the beauty of it. Healing begins not when the world starts treating you better, but when you start treating yourself better. Think of your inner voice like a small child sitting inside you. That child doesn't need perfection, it needs protection. It doesn't need to be silenced, it needs to be soothed. Every time you speak with gentleness, that child feels safe again. And when you feel safe inside, your outer world transforms. You stop chasing validation because you already feel worthy. You stop fearing mistakes because you trust your ability to rise again. You stop begging others to love you because you've already learned to love yourself. It's not arrogance. It's not pride. It's self-respect. It's the awareness that you are human, imperfect, but evolving. You don't need to be flawless to be worthy. You just need to be forgiving. So the next time you fail, pause. Don't attack yourself. Comfort yourself. When you feel fear, don't say, I'm weak. Say, it's okay to feel afraid. I'll do it anyway. When you feel lonely, don't say, I'm unlovable. Say, I'm learning to enjoy my own company. Speak to yourself with the same kindness you'd offer someone you deeply care about. Because at the end of the day, you are that person. Remember this, your relationship with yourself sets the tone for every other relationship in your life. If you treat yourself with love, you'll naturally attract people who do the same. If you treat yourself with contempt, you'll unconsciously invite people who reinforce that pain. So, start today. Be gentle when you fail. Be patient when you fall. Be proud when you try again. Look at yourself and say, I'm doing my best, because sometimes that's all you need to hear. And maybe, just maybe, that's what you've needed to hear all along. When you learn to talk to yourself like someone you love, the whole world begins to speak to you differently. Because love, my friends, always begins within, my friends. From the moment we are born, the world starts teaching us a dangerous lesson. It tells us that our value depends on what we do, that our worth depends on how much we achieve, how much we earn, how many people know our name, or how many likes we get on a screen. And so, slowly, we begin to chase achievements, recognition, status, validation, believing that the more we do, the more we are. But let me ask you something today. What happens when you stop doing? When the title is gone, when the applause fades, when the spotlight turns off, who are you then? You see, that's the real question. Because the truth is, your value does not come from what you do, but from who you are. You were valuable the day you took your first breath, before you achieved anything. Before you had a job, before you had followers, before you had success, you already had worth. Your worth was never meant to be earned, it was meant to be recognized. But somewhere along the ways, society made us forget that. From school to career to relationships, we've been programmed to measure our worth in numbers, grades, salary, followers, possessions. And every time we fall short of those numbers, we feel less intelligent, less attractive, less successful, less enough. But let me tell you, your value is not in the numbers attached to your name. It's in the nature of your heart. You are not valuable because of your performance. You are valuable because of your presence. Because you bring something to this world that no one else can. You see, there are people who can do what you do, but no one can be who you are. No one has your exact laugh, your exact kindness, your exact way of making others feel seen. That's where your true worth lies, in your being, not your doing. Let me share a story. Once, a teacher held up a lovely 1,000 note in front of a class and asked, "Who wants this?" Every hand went up. Then she crumpled it, stepped on it, and asked again, "Who still wants it?" Every hand went up again. She smiled and said, "No matter how crumpled, dirty, or stepped on this note becomes, its value remains the same. So why do you forget your worth when life crumples you?" Isn't that powerful? You may have made mistakes. You may have failed. You may have been rejected. But your value has not decreased by even a single drop, because your worth was never dependent on how perfectly you perform. It was always rooted in who you are. But here's what happens. We start attaching our identity to our roles. We say, "I'm a student, I'm a businessman, I'm a mother, I'm an artist." And when that role is taken away, we feel lost. But you are not your role. You are the soul playing that role. You are not the label. You are the life behind it. When we tie our worth to what we do, we start living like machines, constantly producing, constantly chasing, constantly exhausted. But when we realize that our worth is inherent, we start living like humans again, peaceful, grateful, content. My friends, success is beautiful, but it should never become your identity. Achievements are wonderful, but they should never define your worth. Because if you think your value lies in your success, then every failure will make you feel worthless. But if you know your value lies in your essence, then even in failure, you will stand tall. You are not worthy because of your achievements. You are worthy because of your existence. You are not valuable because of your title. You are valuable because of your truth. Think about the people you love most in life. Your parents, your children, your close friends. Do you love them because of what they do for you? Or because of who they are? Exactly. You love them for their heart, their presence, their soul. And that's how you should see yourself. When you realize this, something inside you shifts. You stop trying to prove. You stop trying to perform. You stop trying to please. And you start to simply be. And when you can just be, when you can sit in silence, breathe deeply, and still feel worthy, that's when you've truly understood self-worth. Because self-worth doesn't come from the outside in. It comes from the inside out. It's not built by the world. It's built by you. And here's the most beautiful part. When you live from a place of inner worth, you actually achieve more. Not because you're desperate to prove yourself, but because you're inspired to express yourself. Your actions flow from peace, not pressure. From wholeness, not hunger. So, my friends, stop asking the world to tell you who you are. Start remembering who you've always been. A soul full of light, love, and limitless potential. You are not valuable because of what you do. You are valuable because of who you are, even when you do nothing at all. And once you believe that, the world will begin to see it too. Because when you finally see your worth, you stop begging for it. You stop chasing people to make you feel enough, because you know you already are. And that, my friends, is the beginning of real freedom.